I want to start today, here's my thing. Hold on, there we go, hey. I want to start today, talk about the structure of polypeptide. I get a lot of people asking me, in terms of Lost, you know, what the hell's that island? You know, it's usually followed by, no, seriously, what the hell's that island? Why so many mysteries? What is it about mystery that I seem to be drawn to? And I was thinking about this, what to talk about at TED, when I talked to the kind rep from TED, and I said, listen, you know, what should I talk about? He said, don't worry about it, just be profound. And I took enormous comfort in that, so thank you if you're here. I was trying to think, what do I talk about? It's a good question. Why do I do so much stuff that involves mystery? And I started trying to figure it out. And I started thinking about, well, why do I do any of what I do? And I started thinking about my grandfather. I loved my grandfather. Harry Kelvin was his name, my mother's father. He died in 1986. He was an amazing guy. And one of the reasons he was amazing, after World War II, he began an electronics company that he started selling surplus parts, kits to schools and stuff. So he had this incredible curiosity. As a kid, I saw him come over to me with radios and telephones and all sorts of things, and he'd open them up. He'd unscrew them and reveal the inner workings, which many of us, I'm sure, take for granted, but it's an amazing gift to give a kid, to open up this thing and show how it works and why it works and what it is. He was the ultimate deconstructor in many ways. And my grandfather was this kind of guy who would not only take things apart, but he got me interested in all sorts of different odd crafts, like you know, printing, like the letterpress. I'm obsessed with printing. I'm obsessed with silk screening and bookbinding and box making. And when I was a kid, I was always like taking apart boxes and stuff. And last night in the hotel, I took apart the Kleenex box. I was just looking at it, and I'm telling you, it's a beautiful thing, I swear to God. I mean, when you look at the box and you sort of see how it works. Reeves is here, and I met him years ago at a book fair. He does pop-up books, and I'm obsessed with like engineering of paper, but like the scoring of it, the printing of it, where the thing gets glued, you know, the registration marks for the ink. I just love boxes. My grandfather was sort of the guy who, you know, kind of got me into all sorts of these things. He would also supply me with tools. He was this amazing encourager, this patron sort of, to make stuff. And he got me a Super 8 camera when I was 10 years old. And in 1976, that was sort of an anomaly to be a 10-year-old kid that had access to a camera. And, you know, he was so generous. I couldn't believe it. He wasn't doing it entirely without some manipulation. I mean, I would call him and I'd be like, listen, Grandpa, I really need this camera. You don't understand. This is like, I want to make movies. I'll get invited to TED one day. This is like, and you know, and my grandmother was the greatest, because she'd be like, you know, she'd get on the phone and she'd be like, Harry, it's better than the drugs. He should be doing this. She was fantastic. So I found myself getting this stuff thanks to her assist, and suddenly, you know, I had a synthesizer when I was 14 years old, this kind of stuff, and it let me make things, which to me was sort of the dream. He sort of humored my obsessions with other things too, like magic. The thing is, we'd go to this magic store in New York City called Lou Tannen's Magic. It was this great magic store. It was a crappy little building in Midtown, but you'd be in the elevator would open, there'd be this little small magic store, you'd be in the magic store, and it was a magical place. So I got all these sort of magic tricks. Oh, here, I'll show you this kind of thing. So it'd be like, you know, right? Which is good, but now I can't move. Now I have to do the rest of the thing. I'm like this. I'm like, oh, wow, look at my computer over there. Anyway. So one of the things that I bought at the magic store was this. Tannen's Mystery Magic Box. The premise behind the Mystery Magic Box was the following. $15 buys you $50 worth of magic, which is a savings. Now, I bought this decades ago, and I'm not kidding. If you look at this, you'll see it's never been opened. But I've had this forever. Now, I was looking at this, it was in my office, and as it always is on the shelf, and I was thinking, why have I not opened this? And why have I kept it? Because I'm not a pack rat, I don't keep everything, but for some reason I haven't opened this box. And I felt like there was a key to this somehow, in talking about something at TED that I haven't discussed before and bored people elsewhere. So I thought, maybe there's something with this. I started thinking about it, and there was this giant question mark. I love the design, for what it's worth, of this thing. And I started thinking, why haven't I opened it? And I realized that I haven't opened it because it represents something important to me. It represents my grandfather. Am I allowed to cry at TED? Because no, I'm not going to cry. But the thing is that it represents infinite possibility. It represents hope. It represents potential. And what I love about this box, and what I realized I sort of do in whatever it is that I do, is I find myself drawn to infinite possibility and that sense of potential. And I realized that mystery is the catalyst for imagination. Now, it's not the most groundbreaking idea, but when I started to think that maybe there are times when mystery is more important than knowledge, I started getting interested in this. And so I started thinking about Lost and the stuff that we do, and I realized, oh my God, like mystery boxes are everywhere in what I do. And how, in the creation of Lost, Damon Lindelof and I, who created the show with me, we were basically tasked with creating this series that we had very little time to do. We had 11 and a half weeks to write it, cast it, crew it, shoot it, cut it, post it, turn it in, 2-hour pilot. So it was not a lot of time. And that sense of possibility, what could this thing be? There was no time to develop it. I'm sure you're all familiar with those people who tell you what you can't do and what you should change. And there was no time for that, which is kind of amazing. And so we did the show, and for those of you who haven't seen it or don't know, I'm going to show you this one little clip from the pilot just to show you some stuff that we did.
How many months pregnant are you?
I'm nearly 8 months.
And how far apart are they coming?
I don't know. A few just happened.
Hey! Hey! Get
away! Now, 10 years ago, if we wanted to do that, we'd have to kill a stuntman. We'd actually... It would be harder. It would take two would be a bitch. So the amazing thing was we were able to do this thing, and part of that was the amazing availability of technology, knowing we could do anything. I mean, we could never have done that. We might have been able to write it, we wouldn't have been able to depict it like we did. And so part of the amazing thing for me is, in the creative process, technology is like mind-blowingly inspiring to me. I realized that blank page is a magic box. It needs to be, filled with something fantastic. I used to have the Ordinary People script that I'd flip through it. The romance of the script was amazing to me. And when it would inspire me, I wanted to try and fill pages with the same kind of spirit and thought and emotion that script did. So that is, I love Apple computers. I'm obsessed. So the Apple computer, like the PowerBook, this computer, right, like it challenges me. It basically says, what are you going to write worthy of me? Like I feel this, I'm compelled. And I often am like, dude, today I'm out. I got nothing. So there's that. In terms of the content of it, you look at stories, you think, well, what are stories but mystery boxes? There's a fundamental question. In TV, the first act is called the teaser. It's literally the teaser. It's the big question. So you're drawn into it. Then, of course, there's another question, and it goes on and on and on. I mean, look at like Star Wars. You got the droids. They meet the mysterious woman. Who's that? We don't know. Mystery box. Then you meet Luke Skywalker. He gets the droid. You see the holographic image. You learn, oh, it's a message. She wants to, find Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's her only hope. But who the hell is Obi-Wan Kenobi? Mystery box. So then you go and he meets Ben Kenobi. Ben Kenobi's uncle is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Holy shit, So it keeps it. Have you guys not seen that? It's huge. Anyway, so there's this thing with mystery boxes that I started feeling like compelled. Then there's a thing of like mystery in terms of imagination, the withholding of information. Doing that intentionally is much more engaging, whether it's like the shark in Jaws. If Spielberg's mechanical shark Bruce had worked, it would not have been remotely as scary. You would have seen it too much. In Alien, they never really showed the alien, terrifying. Even in a movie like a romantic comedy, The Graduate, they're having that date, remember, and they're in the car, and it's loud, and so they put the top up, and they're in there. You don't hear anything they're saying. You can't hear a word, but it's the most romantic date ever, and you love it because you don't hear it. So to me, there's that. And then finally, there's this idea, and stretching the sort of paradigm a little bit, but the idea of the mystery box, meaning what you think you're getting than what you're really getting. And it's true in so many movies and stories. I mean, you look at E.T., for example. E.T. is this, unbelievable movie about what? It's about an alien who meets a kid, right? Well, it's not. E.T. is about divorce. E.T. is about a heartbroken, divorced, crippled family, and ultimately this kid who can't find his way. Die Hard, right? Crazy, great, fun, action-adventure movie in a building. It's about a guy who's on the verge of divorce. He's like showing up to LA, tail between his legs. There are great scenes, maybe not the most amazing dramatic scenes in the history of time, but pretty great scenes. There's a half an hour of investment in character before you get to the stuff that you're expecting. When you look at a movie like Jaws, the scene that you expect, we have the screen, these are the kind of scenes that you remember and expect from Jaws. And she's been eaten, there's a shark. The thing about Jaws is it's really about a guy who is sort of dealing with his place in the world, with his masculinity, with his family, how he's gonna, make it work in this new town. This is one of my favorite scenes ever, and this is a scene that you wouldn't necessarily think of when you think of Jaws, but it's an amazing scene.
Give us a kiss.
Why?
Because I need it.
Come on. Why? Because I need it? Best scene ever, right? Come on. So you think of Jaws. So that's the kind of stuff that, the investment of character, which is the stuff that really is inside the box. It's why when people do sequels or rip off movies, of a genre, they're ripping off the wrong thing. You're not supposed to rip off the shark or the monster. You got to rip off, if you're going to rip something off, rip off the character, rip off the stuff that matters. I mean, look inside yourself and figure out what is inside you, because ultimately, the mystery box is all of us. So there's that. Then the distribution. What's a bigger mystery box than a movie theater? You go to the theater, you're just so excited to see anything. The moment the lights go down is often the best part, and you're full of that amazing, that feeling of excited anticipation. And often the movie's there and it's going, and then something happens, you go, oh, and then something else, and then, now when it's a great movie, you're along for the ride because you're willing to give yourself to it. So to me, whether it's that, whether it's, a TV, an iPod, computer, cell phone. It's funny, I'm as I said, Apple fanatic, and one day about a year or so ago, I was signing on online in the morning to watch Steve Jobs' keynote, because I always do. And he came on, he was presenting the video iPod, and what was on the enormous iPod behind him? Lost. I had no idea. And I realized, holy shit, it had come full circle. The inspiration that I get from the technology is now using the stuff that I do, inspired by it, to sell the technology. You know what I mean? It was nuts. So I found I was going to show you a couple other things. I'm going to skip through. I just want to show you one other thing that has nothing to do with anything. This is something online. I don't know if you've seen 4 or 5. 6 years ago they did this. This is an online thing done by guys who had some visual effects experience. But the point was that they were doing things that were using these mystery boxes that they had, everyone has now. What I've realized is what my grandfather did for me when I was a kid, everyone has access to now. You don't need to have my grandfather, though you wish you had, but I have to tell you, this is a guy doing stuff on a Quadra 950 computer. The resolution is a little bit low, using Infinity software they stopped making 15 years ago. He's doing stuff that looks as amazing as stuff I've seen, released from Hollywood. The most incredible sort of mystery, I think, is now the question of what comes next, because it is now democratized. So now the creation of media it's everywhere. The stuff that I was lucky and begging for to get when I was a kid is now ubiquitous. And so there's an amazing sense of opportunity out there when I think of the filmmakers who exist out there now who would have been silenced, who have been silenced in the past. It's a very exciting thing. I used to say in classes and lectures and stuff that to someone who wants to write, go write, do your thing, it's free, no, you don't need permission to go write. But now I can say, go make your movie. There's nothing stopping you from going out there and getting the technology. You can lease, rent, buy stuff off the shelf that is either as good or just as good, as the stuff that's being used by the, quote unquote, legit people. No community is best served when only the elite have control. And I feel like this is an amazing opportunity to see what else is out there. When I did Mission Impossible 3, we had amazing visual effects stuff. ILM did the effects. It was incredible, and sort of like my dream to be involved. And there were a couple sequences in the movie, like these couple little moments I'll show you. There's that. Okay, obviously I have an obsession with big, crazy explosions. So my favorite visual effect in the movie is the one I'm about to show you. And it's a scene in which Tom's character wakes up, he's drowsy, he's crazy out of it, and a guy wakes up and he shoves this gun in his nose and shoots this little capsule into his brain that he's going to use later to kill him, as bad guys do.
Good morning.
Okay, now, when we shot that scene, we were there doing it. The actor who had the gun, English actor, Eddie Marsan, sweetheart, great guy. He kept taking the gun and putting it into Tom's nose, and it was like it was hurting Tom's nose. And I learned this very early on in my career: don't hurt Tom's nose. There are 3 things you don't want to do. Number 2 is don't hurt Tom's nose. So Eddie has this gun, and he's the greatest guy, and he's like this really sweet English guy. He's like, I'm sorry, I don't want to hurt, I'm like, we have to make this look good. And I realized that we had to do something because it wasn't working just as it was. And I literally thought back to what I would have done using the Super 8 camera that my grandfather got me sitting in that room, and I realized that hand didn't have to be Eddie Marsan's. It could be Tom's. And Tom would know just how hard to push the gun. He wouldn't hurt himself. So we took his hand and we painted it to look a little bit more like Eddie's. We put it in Eddie's sleeve. And so the hand that you see, I'll show you again, that's not Eddie's hand, that's Tom. So Tom's playing 2 roles. And he didn't ask for any more money. So here, watch it again. There he is, he's waking up, drowsy, been through a lot.
Good morning.
Tom's hand, Tom's hand, Tom's hand. Anyway, so. Thanks. So you don't need the greatest technology to do things that can work in movies, and the mystery box, in honor of my grandfather, stays closed. Thank you.